Hi, welcome to the Friday 11th July daily review. Lots happened, so there's probably something worth talking about. The month, so let's start with Bitcoin. The month has not closed, but we've had a bit more price action, and it looks like it's trying to break out of the range. We'll have to see how that closes out. Well, extend its break out of the range. The weekly, having put in 8%, I still consider the range down here at 106, and a false breakdown, break back up, retest, and then acceleration seems pretty standard. I mean, not even sure if I'd count that as div. We did have, the weekly did cool off, and it's been a lot of candles, so that's still looking good. 3-day I don't use so much, but pretty static. Now the daily, if you were that kind of guy, I'm not sure that works too well. On the daily, it's just clean straight up. Not much to say there. It barely did any kind of breakdowns at all. It seems prone to doing these one or two candle retest quicks and then just pops back up. Actually, I had an order just below here, which I missed. So on all time frames, the weekly's got a few days to close, but it would take something dramatic to break this out. Never say never, but I think it's probably better to look at low time frame if you're going to play. Yesterday we talked about how ETH looked bullish, and there was breakout plays on offer, and I think that's kind of where we are. Bitcoin, I think, is much harder to play the breakout on. You almost just have to pray or look low time frame. Like there's no entries being given. It's just one-way streets. So you either trust, you could kind of trust this trend, I guess. Trust that it's going to break no new lows and it's just going to retest and go at best. This retested the breakout level. This didn't retest anything. This just went to a semi-random spot and pumped up again. You can probably see down here that the Coinbase premiums at these points got pretty high. Like, it obviously died here, but then it's rising again. So once again, we're seeing spot buying start to really take over. I think at best, if you, the most conservative way to get into this on a low time frame, I can think, is just look for the daily open and just aim for Nirvana. On a slightly higher time frame, I don't think you'd be remiss just looking at breakout levels. And trying to get involved. So what does that mean? Do I think it goes back down to 112? I think that's unlikely for this to stay bullish. So maybe something like here. Just have to eat some downside if you're wrong. And call it a day. Aim for a TP2. ETH's a bit of an interesting story. I want to do it in two parts. I missed getting in by the slimmest of margins. So we talked specifically about this kind of breakout scenario. It's broken through this kind of consolidation, and as far as I'm concerned, it's now broken into this upper range. I think the most important thing about ETH is it's just prone to a lot of variance still. So I don't see anything wrong with just, having a layer at the true proper retest. You anywhere from really where it did retest the daily open, I guess. Yeah, anywhere from where it actually did retest to 2880 seems fine. Frankly, it's just a lot of push right now. So I think that's low time getting involved. But from a high time frame perspective, it's totally time to refine this a little bit. The monthly doesn't show this range too much, but that's the monthly box we talked about. This is a weekly move into the upper half of this range, and I think you can play that over the long time frame, which I think has a lot of merit. So probably actually don't get too fancy with at least one order. I don't think this top holds. You shrink that so it doesn't come as the other ones. I think it's worthwhile just sticking something there on the high time frame. If you want to get involved and play a lower time frame, I think it's kind of a similar-ish story, except ETH is more variable, and it just looks slightly weaker than Bitcoin still. I mean, let's look at FBTC. I mean, it's been holding, but an alt that keeps up with Bitcoin is great, but you're not really looking for the higher variance for no reason, are you? So, what's our takeaway to start? First, layer breakouts, limits, and leave them. F and BTC, although late to BTC. Low time frame can try and chase daily open or more aggressive around New York open. I think it's a hard one at this point because it's not giving you anything. There's no you're either in or you're out unless you're playing the high time frames, which I think is appropriate. One interesting thing I wanted to note on ETH is these meme lines. So I've tracked this meme line for a long time, and it has some, I'm using log because I always use log, it has some kind of relevance in that it seems to have been strong for some period of time. Same with this one up here, where we had 2 tests, a fake out, a retest, and then a breakdown. So ETH seems to like these long-term meme lines. But you've got to pick your poison. Do you think the meme line is the most important thing here, or do you think this breakout? And frankly, given we spent weeks here, I would say that's more important. And it's kind of akin to this kind of February to March hold off where, you know, that was akin to the resistance, depending on how you draw this line. I assume if I move to regular, yeah, I mean, this always happens where the line was, this line is now support instead of anything else. 3K is a nice round number. Okay, we should probably go look at the other elements now just to round this off. Alright. Look, just clean push through absolutely everything. Like, massive spot demand. Even at 937, they just dumped a stonky amount of money. ETF flows 1.18 billion. I think that, yeah, that's the highest day of all time. And that probably sits with the fact that the SPX was ahead of Bitcoin, and so, you know, money is getting reallocated. But more interesting to me is ETH with another stonking 400 million day. Look, we're on a Friday. There's no buying into the weekend unless Saylor comes through, which, you know, we should probably check. Let's just check his Twitter. He usually posts something on the weekend if he's going to buy. So without that, you know, there could be a bit of consolidation. And more generally, look, even though open interest has obviously increased. We should probably look at it on that. I mean, it's not too outsized, and more importantly, funding is not overheated and is not the main driver. So they may do some drives just to take these people out, but it doesn't seem like they have the firepower until the weekend. So low time frame, I think your best bet is daily open and then looking much lower on Bitcoin. F, I think you can get away with a dip order. Maybe give it a bit more room. Did we say? Let's get rid of this one. I think that's your dip order. And then if you want to play New York, because they're just doing funky things all over the place, I think you got to pick your poison. And for me, I would rather pick Bitcoin, which is going to make the same move. Bitcoin just looks in a better spot for that. So I'd probably just layer up higher on Bitcoin if you wanted to get involved. At this point, just because it's F. That's really it.